Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with a truck full of commanders, showing a bunch of the commanders of the, at least American side, I believe, of the war, including good old Ike. We're now on to the Chief of Staff visits his troops. June 12th, 1944. Getting first-hand information. General George C. Marshall, Chief of Staff, United States Army, chats with the G.I. Joe as his caravan moves along a highway in northern France. Arriving in London on June 9th, the number one man of the United States Army lost no time in getting to the scene of action. Crossing the channel in an American destroyer, General Marshall's party toured the beachheads on the distant accompaniment of exploding mines and artillery fire. And several times during his inspection, the general left his car to get a closer look on foot. Returning to America a few days later, he reported that he had found everything in first-class order and was well pleased with the gains made by the Allies. Yeah, so if he did go on foot and things like that, the men would kind of respect that, so it's a good thing to do. In any military, who would be considered like the commanding officer and things like that, if they don't actually put in the work, a lot of people just won't follow them. So doing that, it's important. Also, I like that they call them G.I. Joes. Or a G.I. Joe, which is, this book is released long before that, but like before the cartoon and things like that, but it's so cool. Chow over, the nurses clean up. Oh, there we go. June 1944. Good soldiers. A group of U.S. Army nurses, first to land after the vanguard of American troops, had established a beachhead somewhere in France, washed their mesh kits on the site of their field hospital, located between the beach and the fighting up front, subjected to the same dangers and hardships as the men whose wounds they were dressing. These modern ladies of the lamp lived up to the great tradition of their calling. They were doing a great job that equaled to the high standards which already had been established in the Pacific, North Africa, and Italy. Yeah, so they're showing women, showing their role in this. A lot of times we do forget part of what women did in this war. In America, we do kind of learn of they kind of stayed behind, did a lot of factory jobs, things like that, somewhat. And then here, they're the nurses predominantly. So it's very important. Little factoid, I'd have to find exactly where it was, but from what I remember reading, back in the day, like before World War II and even before the Civil War even, nurses were not female. Not very much. They were predominantly male, and it was the medical profession in general was seen as a male profession way back in the day. So, interesting. We obviously have changed a lot, and it's a lot different now. The Northern Front in Russia. June 1944. Action on land and sea. Fighting against the Finns in Karelia is shown in action in the photo at the top. While the trooper at the right moves forward, a Russian army nurse attends to the wounds of a fallen comrade. At the bottom, a small combat vessel of the Red Banner Baltic Fleet is moving into action. Of interest is the 7.62 millimeter gun in the foreground. This gun and turret is also used on tanks and armored trains. So we can see, the men fighting up here. Combat medic, army nurse taking care of the red guy. And then, here we see the ship. That would be the 7.62. Not that. That is definitely bigger than 7.62 millimeter. But yeah, 7.62, very useful. The AK, which is not made yet, but is it's in production, I believe. It'll be done by basically the end of the war, like 1946, I believe. It uses 7.62. Decent caliber size, you know. A big gun falls to the Allies. June 1944. Prize of war. The photograph, which is at top, taken near Quinville, France, shows heavy reinforced concrete forts of Crispic with large caliber coastal guns that were shattered by the Allied air and naval bombardment. In the lower picture, Navy men aboard a landing craft keep a sharp lookout on the horizon as they maneuver in the English Channel while awaiting the order to dash for the French coast. So yeah, the Germans had these big concrete fortifications, big guns pointed at the sea, things like that, but ultimately they get obliterated, more or less. They get slightly used, some, but the Allied ship and air bombardment on most sectors of the front were pretty effective. If I remember correctly, I believe they were. I know, obviously, there are some challenges on the beaches still, obviously. Omaha being a good example, but yeah. And then, yep, we can see the men, mostly the pilot there. He's just looking to see if he has any signal. The first French town falls to the Allies. June 12th, 1944. Carton is captured. The town of Carton, a key point on the road to Cherbourg, fell to the Americans on June 12th. But on the 13th, the Nazis counterattacked, and it was not until 2 days later that the last enemy were cleaned out. In this picture, a Signal Corps lineman, his carbine at the ready, looks over potential wire-laying locale as citizens of this Normandy town discuss the deliverance of their homeland after 4 years of occupation. So yeah, we can see there the lineman looking to see if there's, like they said, any potential wire-laying locations. And yeah, the French citizens, while they don't necessarily look all that pleased, they don't really look like they have any thought of happiness. They probably are happy, though. They're like, thank gods we can finally be freed from this Nazi oppression. Because, well, wasn't very nice. Cliff dwellers in northern France. June 12th, 1944. Our flag is still there. An American command post on the cliffs of northern France battles with activity as prisoners are hurried down the side of the cliff to awaiting ships in the harbor. The American flag on the side of the cliff is protection against these troops being shelled or bombed by their own men. The completeness of the American air umbrella and the absence of German planes made this a must. Yeah, so obviously they're right there. There's the American flag. It's on the ground, but not much they can do about that right this second. But it is ensuring that they are not getting bombed from the air. That might be why it's lying on the ground, actually, so that air cover could better see it. Because if it's standing up on a post and it's flying, it might be harder when you look down to actually see the flag, where when it's laid out like this, it might be better. But still. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Ensign, maybe? I don't know. After the Americans entered. June 11th, 1944. Once a thriving Normandy town. The main street of Inside, after the Americans drove the Germans out, at top and below, grinning taut construction workers cheer lustily after they were freed from the German domination. These men had been forced into labor battalions, brought from France, and forced to work on defense fortifications after the Germans occupied their homes in Poland and Russia. So yeah, we can see. Look at the destruction of that town. It's awful. But yeah, these guys are probably like, woo, we're free, finally. A lot of these people, they were glad when the Allies showed up. They're like, finally, we're out. We can get out of here. Must have been an elation to them. A Nazi comes to the end of the road. June 13th, 1944. A tough employer is paid off. A group of Frenchmen talked to American soldiers who have entered this small town in France. The unalived German was killed by the Frenchman Wright. That guy, maybe? Who was forced to work for the Nazis for $2 a week. This Frenchman was one of the many citizens who took up in arms in the street fighting as the Allies entered the town, and this Nazi is one of the 3 he shot. The audience of GIs and French citizens seemed to appreciate his feat. Yeah, obviously, they're happy. They're like, thank heavens above, we got rid of one of the Germans. Now, obviously, for many of us that know, this is obviously kind of sad. A lot of these Germans were just like kids, especially at this point, young. The Atlantic Wall front, there weren't as many experienced soldiers. Some of them were. There were a few people who were on rest from the Soviet front, but there were also a lot who were green. And yeah, it is what it is. You know, it's war. But with that, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Tell me what I can improve on. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.